In the Old Gods, the previous expansion, we added the Zoroastrians, and they got their own mechanics. And we've now done the same with the Jews. It's been missing in Crusader Kings up until now, mainly because there are so few Jewish rulers in this time period. So we've kind of been reluctant to do anything about that. And we wanted to do the Jews justice by actually having some cool mechanics for them. So as a Jewish ruler, you can reform the Kingdom of Israel, you can rebuild the temple, you can restore the high priesthood, and the Kohen Gadol, which is the high priest in ancient Judaism. And there are all kinds of little cool events around this. Of course, there are still not that many Jewish characters that you can actually play in the game, but the Khazars, the steppe tribesmen who actually converted to Judaism, will be there, and you can play them, especially in 867 if you have the Old Gods expansion. The Jews are also present in the game in another way, that you can actually hire a Jewish courtier who will have a very high learning value, and it's a useful courtier to have around. You can also borrow money from the Jews, which is something that rulers did a lot in the medieval time. We've also tried to make sure that you actually need to borrow money, because it's in Crusader Kings 2 it's always been fairly easy to remain in the black in your budget, basically. So armies will be more expensive, and you will kind of need to borrow money from time to time, or bad things will happen. So that's why you might need to borrow money from the Knights Templar or Jewish merchants in your country. We have added some new mechanics to the Muslims as well. They are also an Abrahamic faith, of course, inheritors of, or heirs of Abraham. The main new mechanic with the Muslims is that you can choose one of two schools of theology, the Mutasili or the Ash'ari schools. The Mutasili are kind of rationalists and will give you a bonus to research and technology. And the Ash'ari are more literalists, or I hesitate to say fundamentalists, but they believe that the Quran is basically uncreated, eternal, the Word of God. And they get a bonus to piety instead. So that's kind of a meaningful choice that you can make as a Muslim ruler. And members of the other school of theology will dislike you for this choice, of course. To add some further flavor to the whole religious gameplay in the game, we've added hundreds of new religious events. For example, pertaining to relics, monastic life, pilgrimages, and all kinds of things that kind of were missing in the base game. This is something that you should be familiar with from previous expansions, but I think we've added more of these flavor events now than probably at any time before. In conclusion, Sons of Abraham is perhaps a little bit smaller than the previous expansion, which was called The Old Gods. This is also reflected in the price, of course. What we're aiming to do is to breathe some fresh air into the religious experience in the game. Religion was, of course, a huge part of life in medieval times, and this should be reflected in the gameplay as well. We feel it's going to be more interesting to return to play as a Christian character again. I think with all the expansions we've made, people have played republics, they've played pagans and Muslims, Zoroastrians. But now it's going to be more interesting to play as a plain old Catholic or Orthodox character again.